Since the dawn of the Acura brand, the Type-S name has held a no-compromise mentality. Of course, that's not exactly too obvious when trying to look back fondly at your original CL Type-S in a dusty underground amongst a sea of Accords. But redemption did arrive with the beloved RSX Type-S in 2002. 20 years later, and it's a new world. And after about a 15-year hiatus, the Type-S brand returned in a big way with the TLX Type-S. So there's been a long history of Type-S and, of course, on the Honda side of things, Type-R tuned vehicles. And of course, over the past 10 years, 5 years especially, the market for the cross between luxury and performance, those two worlds have been cross-contaminating for the longest time here, and it's generally been dominated by European manufacturers until now, until the MDX Type-S. So of course, the first car in the Acura lineup to bring back that Type-S name was the TLX Type-S, the 2021 model, and that has a 3-liter turbocharged V6 engine, all new for that car. This has the same engine. The MDX carries that same Type-S engine. It's a brand new engine. It's got forged connecting rods, a forged steel crankshaft, very strong, 355 horsepower, 354 pound-feet of torque. It's a twin-scroll turbocharger. 3 cylinders feed into one entry on the turbocharger. The other 3 feed into the other entry on the turbo. So we can get that peak torque, 354 pound-feet, at 1,500 RPM. Now, the previous range topper, you could call it, in the MDX lineup was the Platinum Elite. I drove one of those about a year ago. Great luxury SUV. So the Platinum Elite was priced just under $69,000 Canadian. So to put this Type-S in perspective, the Type-S starts here in Canada at $79,000 Canadian. This one I'm driving today is the Type-S Ultra, which is priced at $83,000 Canadian. So a $10,000 jump from the Platinum Elite to the Type-S. So what are the differences here? Well, first off, the engine. So this engine is bespoke. It's only found in the TLX Type-S and this MDX Type-S. Before the MDX Type-S, there were pretty much just crickets in the performance luxury SUV segment from Japan. What other performance SUVs does Japan have? I really can't think of any. This is basically the first one here in the modern era. Let's go from a dig here. $60 miles an hour. Wow. It's incredibly fast. Maybe not incredibly. I think I spoke too soon. But it's really fast. What I've noticed is it feels like the 4th and 5th gear pulls are even stronger than the 2nd and 3rd gear pulls. That's what it feels like. Because it's a 10-speed, 2nd and 3rd gears don't really have enough time to fully give you all the power that the engine has to offer. So 60 miles an hour and above, this thing hauls. 355 horsepower in a vehicle that weighs this much has never felt so quick. Suspension-wise, what we get is the first ever Acura product with air suspension. That's awesome. So if you guys can see here on the screen, we have our dynamic mode select button, which if you've been in any modern Acuras, trickled down from the NSX years ago in 2017, and now it's here in every Acura product. New to the Type-S is lift mode. So on the screen here, the digital dash here, we've got 4 different height settings in which the MDX can be set at and can drive at. So right now we're in the highest setting, which I'll show you guys on camera right now. 2 inches. It rises 2 inches above the standard ride height. We have comfort, which is a huge noticeable difference over the standard Platinum Elite. And this is something Acura has been attempting to tune here. It's a huge noticeable difference in the air suspension and adaptive dampers working in conjunction with each other have truly made this an all-around vehicle. And then of course, if we go to normal mode, the dampers go into a good balance between the sport setting and the comfort setting. And then we hit it into sport mode, the whole vehicle lowers down just a little bit. Get that lower center of gravity, reduce body roll. The Type-S also has thicker and stronger anti-roll bars. Now, here's something that I've found. You know, I've played around with the drive modes this entire week. I've done the whole comfort thing. The steering lightens up. Go into sport mode. Gets a little bit heavier. Sport Plus, a little bit heavier still. It's direct. There's not a whole lot of real feel there when you begin pushing things. I had a little bit of an understeer scare. It was one of those moments where I suspected and I thought that I could really feel that I was in touch with the front axles and what the front tires were doing, until I wasn't, until I just was wrong. I'm like, oh no, that's understeer. So then, you know, you saw at the wheel a little bit and get back in line. Then of course in Sport Plus, we turn the knob, hold it for a second. There's a little bit of a gate there, a little gatekeeper between Sport and Sport Plus, which is only available here on the Type-S. As you guys can hopefully hear, get a little bit more noise through the cabin. It's absolutely pumped in through the speakers a little bit. Acura is not shying away from the fact that that's what they're doing. But there is no crackle tune. There's no burble tune. This is no AMG, not even close. They haven't even attempted to give you any crackles, any pops, any kind of grunt on the overrun. Nothing like that. Brake pedal's been tuned here. It is brake by wire. Nice and stiff in Sport Plus. That is one thing that is absolutely forgotten in too many vehicles, especially performance-oriented vehicles, is the brake feel. Because that's where, at the end of the line, that's where all your confidence is coming from. 4-piston Brembo brakes as well for the Type-S. And with this Ultra model here, we do have a 25-speaker ELS audio system, which is bumping. Great system. We've got wood trim here. We've got gloss black trim. We have massage seats, which are great. I mean, here we go. Look at how many different massages you can get. So we've got Wave Shiatsu, which I feel like only a Japanese vehicle could really get away with. We have Step, Awake Fusion, lower back, upper back, rejuvenation, and Zen. And of course on the interior, we look around here, it is quite a bit different than the RDX here. It's a little bit wider. The wheelbase is actually quite a bit longer too here. So what we have here are proper cup holders that don't have a cover ahead of them here just beside the wireless charging pad. And then we have a much larger rest for your wrist, I guess you could call it, here in the center versus the RDX, which was kind of awkwardly small and it was much too close. And then we have the touchpad, which of course is usable and it's good, and it takes, there is a learning curve. I should say there definitely is a learning curve. You go and watch my RDX video, every Acura video, I've said this, it just takes time to get used to. It's not the most intuitive. It's responsive, but it's just the learning curve. I can smell the brakes. I can absolutely smell the Type-S Brembo brakes. This is still dynamically great. It's not quite as chuckable as the RDX A-spec, but on those longer sweepers, it's hunkered down just that little bit more. One thing that even the F-Pace SVR doesn't have, that SH all-wheel drive here does have, oh my God, is that this rear differential here has real torque vectoring. Front to rear, the MDX is able to send up to 70% of the torque to the rear differential, and then 100% of that 70% to either of the rear wheels individually. That's real torque vectoring. Most torque vectoring nowadays that we see is in fact a brake-based torque vectoring system and not a real torque vectoring system. So you'll see here on the screen, SH all-wheel drive, when we power out of a corner, most of, if not all of that rear torque is being pushed to the outer rear wheel. So in order to help rotate the car around. And the transmission, I will note, the 10-speed has been, I'm gonna use the word inconsistent with its shifts in different scenarios. Most of the time it's great. It is tuned here differently in the Type-S. It is also physically beefed up. The clutches are beefier, the gears are beefier, and it's stronger to hold that torque. But I have noticed some inconsistencies in how it shifts. Some full throttle runs will be great. It'll shift seamless, just about feeling like a dual clutch. Other times it doesn't want to cooperate, and you really feel that break in torque. And I can't pin down which scenarios it is. It just happens when it happens. So it's nice though. Compared to the RDX, neither of these vehicles, I feel like the chassis has outbalanced the power, nor has the power outbalanced the chassis. That hasn't happened here. They're both very well balanced in terms of how much roll there is. Like, I feel like roll in the RDX was a good thing to a certain point, because then you weren't necessarily going to push the vehicle past its limits. It has a set limit, that vehicle, the RDX. Less stabilization, less firm damping settings, and so that's what you got, versus the MDX here. It lets you know that it can be pushed further. And then once you approach that edge, it really does come alive. It really comes alive when you're pushing out of corners. You hit the apex, you're powering out, then you really start to feel the torque vectoring. My suggestion would, hey, if you're just buying this to be an alternative to a luxury SUV from some of the German big three, I would not go the Type-S route. I would only go the Type-S route if you actually plan on driving it somewhat hard, or if you go camping and you go off-roading, you need that extra lift and that articulation, and that's a big move for Acura. Yeah, anyways, thanks guys for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the MDX Type-S. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit me up on Instagram at Roads Untraveled if you want to see what I'm driving on a regular basis. Yeah, and hit the bell notification if you don't want to miss any videos we have going forward. Thanks guys for watching. We'll see you soon.